Hi there, it is Jo from Minerva, and today I'm going to do a video all about interfacing. If you'd like to know how to put on interfacing, then you can check out this previous video here. So this video shows you how to apply interfacings, but today we thought we'd show you a one-stop show all of the different types of interfacing that we have at Minerva. You might feel that interfacings is a bit of a minefield. You look online and all you see is a little white swatch and you really don't know what it's like. You can't touch it or feel it. So I want to show you some of the different weights, some of the different types and where you might use them. I've got so many to show you. I've split the video into sort of three parts. So the first ones I show you will be all iron-on interfacings. They're the ones we're probably most familiar with. They're easy to use. The glue is ready on the back and they're ready to go. I will show you some sew-in interfacings, which are applied in a slightly different way. And I've also got some real big guns, some real thick, heavy foam, fleece, all different sorts of interfacing for specific jobs. There are a couple of main companies that sell interfacing. So there is Vilene and there is Hemline, and we stock both of those interfacings and you'll get a sort of different feel from each one. So if it's medium weight interfacing with Hemline, it won't feel the same as medium weight interfacing from Vilene, and that's where people might sort of think what they get in the post isn't what they're expecting. So I'm going to show you the regular iron-on interfacings so that you can see the differences between firm weights and light weights. If you're sewing mostly facings, that's what you're using your interfacing for, button bands, that kind of thing, collars, then you'll probably need an interfacing lighter than you think. So you will rarely need a medium interfacing because you'll be matching your interfacing to the weight of your fabric. So if I show you an example, so this is Vilene's medium interfacing. And you can see that's holding a lot of structure. If you put that on some viscose challis, you would really change the structure of your facing. So you wouldn't get this soft neckline where both sides of the fabric were soft. It would be quite crispy inside. You might hold like shapes like this that you don't want. So a medium interfacing is often used for bag making, or if you've got a real statement collar, like something that you want to have, you know, a sort of area to be structural. So a medium weight interfacing, you can hear it. It holds its structure. This is an iron-on interfacing. You might want something a little lighter. So this is called light soft line. So if you want something medium, but you want it still to remain soft, this is called light soft line. I would call this a medium weight really. That other one seems so firm compared to this. So this would be good for a lyra collar on a lyra dress or a button band. It's just going to hold a little bit of structure on cotton, poplin, any sort of fabric that's already got a little bit of structure. That one is a Vilene H200. So if you like the look of that one, that's H200. This next one is described as a light. It feels so similar to the last one. I can't tell you how similar it feels, but this one is F220, so 220. This one is light too, be great for cottons, poplins, linens, anything that's already got a slight bit of structure. That one's described as a light interfacing. This next one is still by Vilene. It's called a medium easy fuse soft. Now this one is definitely lighter than the last one. So if you were using a viscose or a challis or a fabric with some drape in it, any kind of tencel content, then this one would be a better match for your fabric. It's G405. It's very soft on the outside, nice hand, so if that was on the inside of your garment, that would be really comfortable, and that is G405. It's described as a medium easy fuse soft, and it's definitely soft. The next one from Vilene is Vilene H180. Now this is light easy fuse, Again, really suitable for viscose. The viscose that I'm wearing is Atelier Jupes viscose, and I used this interfacing on here because I wanted it to be still nice and soft, because I had all these soft folds and everything here. So I just wanted that to hold the shape of the neckline, not to make it stick out. So that one is the light easy fuse. If you buy one of our kits, then you might see your interfacing come in a packet like this. This is a Vilene one as well. This one's a medium, but you can get the light and the super light. So these come in the kits. I'll put these in the product list below so that you can get them if you want to, because I don't think the picture looks like that on our website. So I will put this product number on the list below these videos. Hemline also do a range of the iron-on interfacings. They can mostly come in black and white, and I'll show you the sort of thicknesses of these as they go from heavy to light. So this is their firm interfacing, a little bit firmer than the first one I showed you in the last run. This would be for bags, pelmets, Roman blinds, storage buckets sort of thing. You really will be getting a firm, stable fabric when you apply the interfacing to this. So this is their firm weight. It's called Hemline Heavy Firm Iron On. This one is Hemline's medium, and it does feel medium weight. Feels stiff again. It holds its shape. It's for thicker fabrics, so you could use that in collars and cuffs of jackets and that kind of thing. Their next one is called Super Soft Medium. So as well as the thickness of the interfacing, there's also sort of the flow of the interfacing and how flexible it is. So this one is called Super Soft Medium Iron On. So although this is a medium weight like the last one, it's got a little bit more pliability and flexibility. So if you've got collars with quite a bit of detail, or collars that you want to definitely roll back flat, not just have a curl on, then a super soft one might be a better option. And finally, this is Hemline's Light Super Soft Light. It's not as light as the Vilene. It's not as flexible either. I would still call this medium. You know, if I had some viscose, I would use it if I hadn't got anything else. But I think if I was sewing a viscose chalet, then I would like one that was even lighter. So this is Super Soft Light from Hemline. So that selection there, they're the basic iron-on interfacing that you can get from Minerva. You use them for collars, cuffs, button bands, facings, pocket edges, stabilizing a zip, all of that kind of thing. And you're going to need to do a little sample when you get it. So when you get it, test it on your material before you stick it to your pieces, because if you don't like it, you can get a different one. If you stuck it to all of your facings, then you kind of committed to it at that point. So you can get a little test it out on your fabric, or you can carry on watching and see if there's a interfacing that really might fit the job for your garment. Depending on what fabric you use, or indeed what fabric you can wear comfortably against your skin, then you might want a cotton interfacing. So you can get interfacing that has the glue on the back, like an interfacing, and it's made of cotton, so you'll get much more pliability. So in these cases, the fabrics are more similar to each other. So of course there's a light and a medium and a firm one, but you don't get such variation as you do in those synthetic ones. In those synthetic ones, the firm ones can feel really firm and the light ones can feel really light. Here you'll get things that are quite similar, and they wash really nicely. I used to always use a synthetic interfacing, but I use cotton ones through choice quite a lot more now. They stick to the fabric better, they wash better, they give your clothes a little bit more longevity. So let's take a look at some cotton interfacing. This is the firm version of the cotton one. You can feel it's got quite a lot of glue on the back. There's plenty of glue on there for attaching to your tailored items. I prefer to use this for tailored items. It's quite firm, that's the firmest one, but really you don't have to worry about is it soft or is it not soft. All of the cotton ones have the same nice finish that you have against your skin. So that's the firm one. This is the medium cotton, a little bit lighter. It's washable at 60 degrees, whereas the synthetic ones are more like 40 degrees, so that's why you get a little bit more longevity with this one. And because you're using interfacing quite often to stabilize the fabric, then you need this to be on the straight grain of your fabric. So on here I've got a little bit of give in the cross grain, so I want to make sure that my interfacing is lining up with the straight grain, and that's the same for all interfacings. You want to use the length grain to line up your fabrics. So that one's medium. This next one's light. See me through that one. That one would be better for a viscose or a challis or something much lighter. And there's also a super fine one, so you can get that cotton finish in a super fine weight. This one's really nice for lawn, if you've got a cotton lawn or cotton foil, because it's nice and light and it won't over stiffen your fabric. If you want a light natural cotton for working with a lawn, then this one is a brushed cotton. So this one's very soft on the outside, a woven brushed fabric. This one's in ecru, but it also comes in black. And this is classed as medium, but actually I would really say that's quite a lightweight fabric. That would be really nice in the collars of viscose challis or a cotton lawn or a cotton foil. So that one is a cotton iron-on interfacing fabric. So you might choose to go down the route of a cotton woven interfacing. There are some other specific iron-on interfacings for specific jobs. So I'd never seen this before, but I'm definitely going to use it. It's a vertical interfacing. So this interfacing has stretch in the width, but it's got tiny, tiny vertical threads running down it, which mean in the straight grain it's really, really stable. So if you want to use it on a pocket, on a patch pocket for example, to stop it sort of sagging at the top, you can use it there. If you need something to absolutely stay on the straight grain, maybe if you're putting a zip in, you don't want it to stretch out, then this is a really good choice. It's super, super light. Of all the ones that I've got today, this is the lightest one. It's called Vertical Threads, and you can use it on silk, you can use it on thick fabrics. So say you've got some wool fabric but you don't want it to go out of shape, even though this is light and the wool is thicker, it won't stabilize the wool, it will stop the grain line moving. Really interesting, that one. That's called Vertical Threads. That also comes in another weight, so that was the light one. And you can also get a slightly firmer one, so that's stretch in one direction, absolutely rock solid in the other direction in the length grain. So you match the length grain of the interfacing with the length grain of your fabric and it will stop it moving. You could use it the other way if you wanted to make your fabric completely stable on the cross grain. So those ones have a thread running through them. If you enjoy making hats and bags and you're looking for something a little bit firmer than those cotton and synthetic ones, then you can take a look at our natural interfacings. So these are woven and they're much firmer. And these come in sew in and iron on. So these are the iron on ones. So this is iron on interfacing for hats and bags. This one's called Natural. This is our other sewing one that's called Natural. It's got the sort of check on. This one's more for tailoring because it's slightly softer, whereas this one is holding its shape really strongly, so that would be for bags and hats, whereas this one is a little bit softer, so if you want that to roll for a collar or a lapel, you'll get more shaping with this one. And this traditional one also comes in a sew-in version. So if you're tailoring and you want to do all your pad stitching and attaching your collars with sew-in interfacing because you don't want any bubble marks, then you could choose between iron-on or sew-in. In this iron-on section, I have a few stretch interfacings which you might not have seen or used before. So this is a light interfacing. I mean, it's really light. It's like a sort of chiffon, and it can actually be used to interface chiffon. It's got a stretch in it, but only just like a little give. But it's really great for interfacing fabrics that do have a little bit of give in them. So like lace, chiffon, tulle, anything that because of the open texture of the fabric can move. Not that it's a knit, but it's just because it's got a weave that means it can move around. Then this fabric needs interfacing with a stretch interfacing. So this one is called a light stretch, and it's perfect for those very light or sheer fabrics. If you actually want to use knits and have a stretch interfacing, then you can also do that. So this one has a really nice texture. It's sort of got a little bubbly texture, a little bit like a knit, and it's got a straight grain and a stretchy grain. So you don't want it to be too stretchy because you're actually wanting it to stabilise your knits, but this one has really different feeling glue on the other side because you want that glue to stick to knits, and when knits stretch you don't want all the glue to pop off and you have two pieces of fabric acting separately. So this one is for knits. It feels really different. It feels like a crepe with lots and lots of glue on. It's got 10% stretch. It's a stretch woven interfacing, and it's specially for knits. You might use it if you've made a band, so if you've got sort of little cuffs but you want them to stop your cuffs from stretching out, you might use it as an interfacing on a neck facing. You don't always see neck facings, but you do sometimes. You might use it on hems to stabilise different shaped hems. I've got one more stretch fabric interfacing to show you. This one's really light, really stretchy. It's got 40% stretch in the width and 20% stretch in the length, and this one is for using with knits as well. So it depends if you want to stabilise your knits with the previous one, or if you want to stop your knits from stretching out but continue to allow them to stretch. So that is a stretch interfacing. There is one other interfacing product I'd like to show you which I use, which is a waistband interfacing. So this one has holes already through it, so that when you fold it in half, it really has a good fold on a waistband, so you haven't got lots of bulk at the top. And it also has the stitch line, so when you want to attach it, you use that as your guide to sew it on to the waistband to the skirt, and then you can use the other side to fold it over, and you get a really accurate stitch in the ditch then. So this one's attached to your skirt, and then you definitely know that all the way along that waistband seam, it's the seam line is the same all the way along. Sometimes if you try to fold that seam out yourself and then you try and stitch in the ditch, sometimes you catch it from it looks great from the right side where you're stitching in the ditch, but on the wrong side you keep missing it. So I like that one. It's only good for a straight waistband. It's not so good for a curved waistband. You'd need to cut yourself a piece of interfacing. That's just another product I thought I would show you as part of our interfacing range. That's a hemline waistband interfacing. Okay, let's have a look at our range of sewing interfacings and why we might choose them. This next set of interfacings are sewing interfacings. Why might you use them, you might ask? Well, if you don't want the glue to show through to the fabric, you don't want any bubbles, you don't want any ripples, you want a softer look. So quite often in a tailoring thing, on a collar, you don't want the interfacing to, you don't want it to look from the right side like it's got interfacing on the inside. So you use sewing interfacing because that can move independently to the outside piece of fabric. You attach them by basting them to the main pieces of fabric, so then they act as one but they're not glued together. So you can use them wherever. If you making, I don't know, the Charlie kaftan, and you've got that little square at the front that you attach the ties to, you can just use a little piece of sewing, and when you sew around the square, you just sew a piece of interfacing in at the same time. I think modern sewers, we've just got so used to using iron-on interfacing. It's so easy, but actually sewing interfacings can sometimes give a little bit of a softer look. So we've got the same companies again. We've got hemline ones and filine ones. This is just a sewing cotton interfacing, and it's just like a piece of really firm cotton. It's maybe a little bit treated, maybe it's got a starch in it or a product in it that's giving us the stiffness. So that one's classed as medium, and again you can see that medium is really stiff. I think sometimes we think medium is, oh well, that's in the middle, I can't go wrong with that, but medium interfacing is still quite a stiff product. And if we're making mostly cotton things, jersey things, viscose things, anything with a drape, then we'll probably be needing a light interfacing. But if you're making something like a welt pocket, then you might use a medium weight interfacing. You can get really, really firm sewing interfacing, and this you might use if you're making pelmets or tiebacks or anything where you really need to stiffen something. You're making a bucket, you know, a toy bucket to put toys in. It's fabric on the outside and you want the sides to stand up on their own. Then you can stabilise your fabric and really get structure with a firm interfacing. This is hemline heavy firm sewing. Some people might use it in jackets and coats, but I'd definitely be using that for sort of homeware because of the overall stiffness. Again, sometimes you're not just thinking about the stiffness, you're also thinking about how pliable it is. So this is a soft, flexible interfacing, so it really does sort of, you can make shapes out of it, but the creases don't stay in it. So this one is great for bag making and hat making, especially if you're doing something where you don't want the glue to be sort of bubbling, say you've got quite a big brim. Then this one is more flexible. This is called soft flexible interfacing, and I've used it when I've made a belt. So I've made a matching belt for a vintage dress and I wanted it to be firm but flexible. Sometimes you want a heavy interfacing that is soft, so you've got your sort of stable firm that holds a structure, you've got your flexible which you can make shapes out of, and then you might have something that's soft. So this might be called an interlining instead of an interfacing. So it's really, really soft to the touch and very, very pliable. So you could use this on a lapel. So you would get really nice sort of raised lapels. This would be nice in suiting fabric and wool fabrics. It's really easy to sew because it's got quite a sort of soft weave. It goes through your machine, it's not brittle, so you can sort of manipulate it through your machine without having a sort of big shape to try and move. And that one is called a heavy sewing interfacing. and that one is very, very soft. Here's the last of the soft interfacings, the ones that feel more interlining than interfacing. So we had the firm one, this is the medium one, and I will show you the light one next. You can get different weights of that soft one, so this is the same one, flexible soft, but this one is light, so you might use this around a cuff if you want to put little bits around a cuff. I've made the Canton jacket, so I might have this around my pocket edges so that it stabilises the pocket, but it doesn't make the edge of the pocket really crisp and firm. It just stabilises the fabric. So you can get the flexible soft in firm, medium and light. My next selection of interfacing in our show all interfacing is ones that you might choose for specific projects. So I've got some fleeces, some foams, some buckram and some firm interfacing for home furnishing projects. So let's take a look at some of these. We've got a mix of iron-on and sew-in here, so I'm just going to show you the fleeces first. So this is a fleece and it's used in makeup bags, sometimes in jackets. So if you've got a really big collar like a shearling collar or a leather jacket and you want to put a flannel collar that rolls out to the outside and you want that to be really thick, then you might use a fusible fleece, but it's mostly used in bag making and that kind of thing. It's quite good for fancy dress and cosplay and that kind of thing because you can add lots and lots of volume with quite a light weight, so you're not putting lots of layers of fabric that make a garment really heavy. So this one is a sew-in fleece. This one is classed as heavy. It's got sort of really excellent volume if you look at the thickness of it. And you can also get fleece which is ironing, so this side's got the glue on. I've used this in makeup bags. It really does add a really nice volume. It's also good for quilting, so if you want to make something like the Hovia jacket and you're not using a ready quilted fabric, you want to put 2 layers of fabric together, it stops your wadding moving around inside while you're doing all of that quilting stitching on your machine. So that one is a lightweight fleece, it's iron on, and you can patch it together. It doesn't have any stretch, so you can butt 2 pieces together if you want to make a baby quilt or something like that that's a light fleece. So those are our fleece interfacings. We have a couple of foam interfacings, so again useful for a fancy dress and cosplay. You can make those sort of big round shapes, you know, apple, tomato, that kind of thing, because you can get a real structure. It's really easy to cut just with normal everyday scissors, and you can sew it under the sewing machine. It's quite hard because it sort of pings up and bounces out of the way, but it is definitely possible to sew this under the machine. I've used it in a makeup bag and it made a really nice structured box makeup bag. We've got this in a couple of weights. It's really light, so it says light and it means light in weight, not light in its thickness. And there's another one here. This one feels more dense. Because of its malleability, you could actually structure headwear with it. So you could make like a whole animal head mask. If you were making a reindeer head shape, you could use it for antlers. You can use it for anything that's really, really structured. This one is our medium weight foam, so it's a little bit more dense in its texture, but these are both sew-in. You can't press these in because of the type of product. You can't put the iron on this, so you need to make sure you keep your iron away from your interfaced parts. These are dry cleanable and they're really smooth, so even if you had to have that bit on the inside of your costume, it would still feel okay to wear. So those are our foam interfacings. Next we're looking at the really firm interfacing. So this is called buckram, It's really, really stiff, like cardboard. This is an iron-on one. You would use this to make pelmets across the top of curtains. I mean, it's really, really firm. You'd need some good scissors to get through that. It's got a soft texture on this side, which would be the inside of your pelmet, and the iron-on side is here. It's not very wide. This is how wide it is. And you might want to, when you get it in from your post, you'll get it rolled up, but you might want to press it out with some weights before you try and cut it out. You can also use this for the peak on a cap. So if you're making a men's cap or a unisex cap, you can put that fabric inside the peak and you'll get a real authentic front to your hat. You can also get this in a slightly lighter, softer version. So this is a needle felted one, so it's got quite a sort of fuzzy felted texture to it, but again, it's stiff, it's firm, but it's not quite as firm as the last one. So if the last one is going to be too much for your project, then this is the next weight down. You can sew these on the sewing machine, but you'll definitely need a jeans needle or a 100 needle. I've got a few more firm interfacings to show you. So this one is a really smooth texture. It's the same feeling as the interfacings I showed you right at the beginning of the video. It's the heavy S80 from Vilene. It's their heavy firm sewing. It hasn't got any glue on. You can put it under the machine or you can hand sew it. It's useful for bags, or if you do any kind of machine embroidery. So say you make collages, or you have a sort of creative artistic side and you want to sew scraps to it to make pictures and images, it can be used for that. It's much thinner than the buckram ones, and you can make little postcards with it and things like that. It's really, really firm. Hemline also do one of those. I would say it's firmer. It's not quite as pliable as the Vilene one, but it's the same product. There's obviously a different price point on those. The Vilene one is slightly more pliable and the hemline one is really, really stiff. That one would definitely cut sort of very flat rectangles for doing artwork on. Well, that's me done today. There are 37 types of interfacing that I have shown you there, and I know that you can't feel them, so it doesn't feel quite the same when you're choosing, but if you can see it on the screen, you can see that sort of medium, light, heavyweight. The heavyweight interfacings really are for specific projects. Medium, more for pelmets, bags, that kind of thing, and the light and the superfine ones are the ones that are most popular when we are making garments, so we want that sort of just extra softness to control the lines of our garments. All of those products are listed below in a link on YouTube, or they will be listed below on the Minerva website. When you see this video, underneath will be the products. If you would like to learn more about sewing, we have Learn to Sew tutorials. We have some fantastic sew-alongs where people sew a project from beginning to end. And we also have some great chit-chat videos with Vicky where she shows you some of the latest trends, patterns and fabrics. You can make an account with us, share your makes, and it's really inspirational for other Minerva makers. It gives them a lot of information. So if you've used a specific interfacing, it's really nice if you tag it, because then we can see which interfacing matches which fabric, and it really helps customers to choose which product to choose with which fabric. Thank you very much for watching. Do call again soon.